I bring it up. Just a little bit of a guide of what we were going to talk about today. And really, so let's kind of recap. I would like to do a recap of the referral piece was Fast Start Coaching number 1. How many, it's been a couple weeks since we did that session, and really it's the knowledge, ingesting the knowledge of how to ask for referrals and doing all that. It's great that you know how to do it, the ABCDE, and maybe you took notes and wrote it all down. It's the execution piece is where actually all the magic happens, right? Is the execution of all that knowledge. So how many of you, or does anyone want to share either positive or negative? It doesn't even have to be, I got 5 referrals because I asked for a referral and I used the process or a couple steps of the process, whatever that looks like. It could be, hey, I asked for a referral and they said no. I mean, it doesn't even matter with that, but how many of you have executed on or improved from having that session and really implemented it into your process?
I had 2 cars last week where on the first one, I kind of blanked it until they were sitting there, and then I didn't want to try to fumble the steps, so I didn't really push it super hard. But the one that you actually sat in on with me, I did the whole letting them know, hey, I'll just be asked about referrals at the end here, so just keep that in mind if you have anybody. He didn't have anyone, unfortunately, but I gave him some business cards in case he knew anybody who their home was getting wildfire canceled at the end. But having the framework was really nice, like having the structure, having an idea of how to go through it is great. Having just little scaffolds of how to use it.
Yeah, and so let me brag on Jeremy a little bit. In that session, he had already, the client was already there. He got there early, so he'd already started and obviously introduced the referral piece. But when we got to, he went through, reviewing the coverages, doing all that with the client, and then we got to towards the end. He connected it very well as far as what he just mentioned. Hey, what? I'm wondering, do you have anyone that I don't know exactly how you said it, Jeremy, but it was connecting with the wildfire score. Do you know of anyone that's having problems with their homeowner's insurance? And you're in sister, so the chances of that coming up are high, very high. And so he did that very well. And piqued the interest. He was specific. Gave helped the client brainstorm by giving him a category of people he's looking for. And I said, hey, well, if you're out and about and you have come over across a conversation, here's my card. Have them, call me. I'd love to help. And obviously, I'm right downtown, and it was perfect. I'm like, that's all you need to do. If you didn't do that, you get your chance 100% of zero chance, right? But you never know. Now he has your cards and knows where you're located, and he knows that you're an expert in the wildfire score. And if anyone ever mentions it, I have a high probability that it's going to say Coastal Care. So, perfect. Anyone else have a story for referrals for success? Implementation. Are you guys, getting a little bit better at it? Making it part of your process?
Night and day difference from the first day. Having a game plan, having a structure, having this outline is night and day as opposed to just winging it. I used to wing it a lot, but I knew the industry that I was in. Now here I can't wing it. I gotta know it. And having a game plan is just gonna make me look better and more professional and representing country better as well.
Consistency is just part of your process, right? All right, so that was coaching or Fast Start Coaching number 1. Fast Start Coaching number 2 last week was on networking and lead gen, and really, researching some open-ended connection groups, chambers, rotaries, things like that, and then we got real specific on the lead generation groups like BNI and those ones where it's one profession per chair or position. Anybody have an update on that? Any traction in that where you were able to maybe find a group or do some research on any that you found success?
I found a group from Fabian. He referred me to a group that he can't be involved because he's already in one already, and he's well well equipped in there. But it was out in Redmond, and it was with teams. And I asked him, I reached out to him yesterday to see if there was any insurance agents in there right now. And he's all, well, there's one that they're pending the application. So I was like, okay, because the one in Bend was only like 4 people. So he's all, no, we have this one in here. I was like, no, that's still the same from when I talked to you in September. It hasn't grown. So I don't want to spend that. And then I also reached out to the Chamber of Commerce to have a meeting with Shelly Junker, Small World. I used to train her, and she's going to come down to the office and explain more about the Chamber of Commerce of Bend. So going to these events, and I was doing that for the other company that I was working with, but now I think it's going to be a lot easier. Me having the pull and just figuring out like, okay, how do I go? How do I utilize this? How do I get to network within the chamber? Because the groups in Bend are already full. There's like slim pickings for a lot of the insurance agents from what I've seen. So I was like, okay, on to the next one.
Yeah. And those are sometimes you wait for an opening, and really just keep checking back. And if you have one, I know they let you come visit. So I don't know if they'll let you come visit if there's already, somebody in the spot that you want. I would be curious just to see how the group functions, how big the group is, and really just waiting for, an opening to happen. It's kind of like you keep checking back with clients or prospects that you're trying to win over, and you just put it on. It's a cadence that you create, and you just put it on your calendar and follow up. You're still looking for a leads group. So, all right. Well, let's transition into today's, which I know like I mentioned, I sent out a reminder, and just really what I call this one is appointment foundations. And it's just, I like the word that Jeremy uses with the scaffolding, the structure of an appointment. And that's really what we're going to cover today. And I know like we have Nancy and Devin who have been, they've been agents and, running appointments for months and months now. And some of you are brand new, and so it all comes from a different tenure with running appointments with clients, but it doesn't matter like how long you've been doing it. You got to make sure it's successful, and you may have honed it like, Devin and Nancy, you may have started back, when you started and your appointment looked like one way, and now it looks completely different because you've matured through the process, right? And you've learned what does work for you, what doesn't work for you, and all those things. So, but I want with Jimmy and Jeremy and Matt, Gabby, really just to talk about a specific process that that is universal. Like it will work with anybody, really. And it's making sure that you're hitting these certain points and transitioning through the appointment, right? So it's just really what Jeremy would call the scaffolding of how you process through an appointment. So for those of you who wing it every time, I'm going to encourage you to not do that. I'm going to encourage you to have a structured appointment, because I'm telling you right now, every very successful country agent, I can only speak for that because that's all I know, they have a specific process that they use in every single appointment, and they do not deter from it at all, right? I can remember, and I'll just share the story real quick before I go into it. I was an agent in Las Vegas, and we had like a Monday morning roundtable like we do on Monday mornings for the agents. And there was a guest speaker this one day, and his name was Denny Prentice. And if you ever look him up, he's like been with the country for over 40 years. I mean, long time, right? Started when he was 10. I don't know. But he was the speaker for us that day, and he goes as far as having his clients at this point, you know, when you've been in business 40 years and you're a Hall of Fame and you have super successful in Illinois, he's to the point where he has his clients or prospects that want to work with him, they actually have to sign a contract. That if he puts a plan together for them, that they will execute on the plan. Otherwise, he won't waste his time from the very beginning. So we're talking that's over here, very extreme. And then some of us are like over here, just starting, what does that look like? You don't have the clout yet, right? To create that type of atmosphere for your prospects or clients yet. But imagine getting to that point where you are so selective on who you work with, because you got to make sure they're in it with all the work that you're going to be doing for them. Right? So we're talking completely structured. And when I say that there is, I don't know of any very successful agents that don't have a complete structure. So I encourage you, if you're winging it, not do that anymore. Okay, let's set some, I'm going to give you some ideas on some basics, foundational points, cornerstones of your appointment that you want to kind of structure around it. Like, I'm not saying you have the freedom to do whatever you want in between, but really I'm going to go through some foundational pieces that should not be missing from your appointment process. Okay. So I you know, I'm looking at the email that I sent you. I kind of went through and kind of structured that a little bit so you have an idea of what I'm going to be talking about. But you know, the first thing you do when somebody comes in is build rapport with them, right? Does anyone have anything specific, like specific questions they ask clients just to make them feel at ease? You know, you usher them into your office. Let's just create a scenario, right? They are coming to your office for an appointment, and it's in person because they have not virtual, not everything done. So you ask them to your office. They sit down. What are some of the things you ask them to kind of just make them feel at ease or build rapport? You know, it's not all business right now. Let me catch up or get to know you or whatever that may be. What are some questions you ask?
This one I started thinking of anything exciting going on in your world. Open-ended, let them talk.
Anything exciting which could lead to major changes that you would want to know, right?
I know for me, a lot of what I have to build a good reputation out here is really sell myself as part of the community, because there's folks out here aren't going to want to work with somebody who isn't part of the community. So I'll try to, like, I obviously want to avoid the nice weather we're having, but like tie in something like a local event that you've noticed. So like when there was the quilt show this last weekend, or when the rodeo's in town, or when there's a big wildfire happening and the smoke's crazy, and ask them, how are you dealing with the smoke? You know, so, but like something to like build the kind of rapport of I'm here with you, you know.
Very good.
I usually ask people, like, if I don't know them, because I feel like I know a lot of people from here, I usually ask them, if I don't know them or don't know how long they've been around, I ask them, like, how long they've lived in the area, like, kind of what their background is, just so I can, like, just get to know them as a person as well, rather than just, like, as a client. And I think people appreciate that. And then that usually turns into a 10-15 minute conversation of like, oh my gosh, well, you did this and you did this. And do you know this person? Do you know this person? Like, blah, 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 blah. So that's usually where I start with things with there. So
I love what you said, Gabby, about getting to know them as a human being, as a person, and not just as a client or a prospect. You know, I think that really, because that comes from the heart, right? It's heartfelt. It's, hey, tell me about yourself. Like, what do you do? I'm truly curious and interested in you as a person. And when you get to that point in your career where you that is very genuine and authentic, where you do just want to know about the person, you're starting to arrive at that point and really understand the impact that you have with people by what you do.
I was asked, did you find my office okay? And it always leads, it's like the best intro, cause I had a lady take out a paper map. And she said that she got lost and she was 35 minutes late. So now it's like a joke to myself. Oh, did you find the office okay? Cause it could have been worse than the lady who had her paper map. And she like, cause I was like, oh, the map took you the wrong way. I thought she meant on her app. No, the paper map was not easy for her to find the office. So it always leads to a conversation and it tells me a lot about the person. So I just now every time it's the first thing I say when they walk in the door. I always get up and go greet them at the door and I say, oh, did you find the office? Okay, and then it's just funny where it goes from there.
Yeah. That's so funny to me, Nancy, because you're right at the corner. Like, who picked this your office? It's right there.
You're frozen. I missed it.
Oh,
Oh, you'd be
Okay.
surprised. This didn't even used to be an entrance, so people who've lived here a long time, they didn't used to have a stoplight in the middle of our old Highway 99, so it's like a new entrance to it, so. A lot of people don't come to Central Point, so they haven't seen it yet, so it's funny.
anyone else? All right, I'll move on to the next thing. So let's pretend you built rapport, and I would say for some of the people that I've coached in the past, other agents, that transition from building rapport, transitioning to business, if you start getting really deep into personal conversation at the beginning of the appointment, it's kind of really hard to reel it back in sometimes, right? If you get a talker, and they just like, yeah, and my daughter and her boyfriend, and mean, you could go off on rabbit trails, right? So it's being, you gotta keep that in mind when you do ask some of those open-ended questions that the conversation could go anywhere, right? But so then it's, all right, looking for that opening to bring it back into what they're here for today in your office, right? So it's that transition to business. And for me, I know if I were the agent and, we were getting kind of in the weeds with some stuff, and I would look for an opening, I would say, you know what, I'm just so grateful. I appreciate you guys coming in today, so let's kind of transition to what you're in here for today. Like here we're going to go through your auto, your home, and, your life insurance policies. We're going to do a review, make sure like we're all on the same page. We got the correct coverages based on your current situation, things like that. So that would be my transition, is thanking them for coming in, thanking them for making the effort to come in and meet face to face and all of that, because that kind of, it gives that segue, right? Into, all right, so the intro, doing business with me. And that's really what I would do. I gave you a little bit of it just there, what they could expect, but before you go right into, you might have the deck of pages sitting in front of you. You may have a copy for them that you handed in a folder. Like, I don't know what your process is at that point, but instead of jumping in, make sure you have control of the appointment right now. And instead of jumping into, well, let's review your auto deck page or your home deck page, this is a perfect chance for you to introduce what they can expect by working with you. All right. So if you're not currently doing this right now, please change what you're doing, because this is where you set all the expectations. You set all they're going to, by the time you get done with this, if you kind of do it in your own way, the way I'm going to introduce it to you, they will feel like they're part of your country family, and that they are just you're going to lead them where they need to go, and they're going to follow, because this is what all your clients do. I did not do this at the beginning of when I was an agent. I developed this because this worked very well once I started doing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this a year ago? So this was very, and like I said, I'm introducing to you what I did as an agent, and I was very successful at. I'm not expecting you to do exactly what I did. We're all different. Right? But I'm just going to introduce you to a way that you could take bits and pieces of it, make it your own, stick it into your own process, but this piece as a whole, if you overlook this piece, your clients will not be as engaged. They won't, they'll sit there and may wonder, well, what's next? What's she gonna try and sell me now? You know, and you don't want that, right? So I take that off the table. All right, so we've transitioned into business, and I said, thank you so much for coming in. I so appreciate that. I know, you know, you're probably busy out, you know, wanting to play golf right now or whatever. I just kind of think joke about it. And I would say, but here's what we're gonna do today. All right, so you guys have come in and we're gonna cover from the products that I see you have. What I promise you're gonna leave today with is you're gonna have all the knowledge, all the coverage limits, that all of my recommendations, all of those things based on our conversation, what I find out about you, and what I would recommend based on your current situation. All right, so we're gonna cover all those things. So I'm gonna make sure you understand, I'm gonna educate you. If you don't know what a coverage is, like let's make sure you leave here knowing everything about your policies. That's my goal. All right, but before we get to that, I want to set some expectations. I want to introduce to you what you get when you work with me. Like what is it that you're that connects us, right? As me as your agent, you as the client. And so I want to cover a couple of those things. One is you know, property casualty planning. That's what we're doing today. These are the pieces, the policies that you have. These are property casualty pieces, right? So we're going to cover all that. The other thing that I do for all my clients, which you get to be a part of, is I develop a life insurance plan for all of my clients. All right, they all look different. Everyone comes from a different background and has different opinions and all of that. But this piece of the life insurance conversation with my clients is very, very important. So I do that for all of them. We put a plan together, we see what other policies you have that fit into it, and then we go from there. All right, we probably won't get to that today. So before you leave, we'll make an appointment to actually cover that at a later time. But if we get to it today, we can, great, we can transition right into that. The other part that I help all my clients with is I connect them with retirement planning help. Right, who are you currently working with that manages either your 401k, any outside IRAs, anything like that, retirement planning savings? I sit there and listen to what they say. Usually it's like, nobody. I don't have anyone. I have 401k at work. And I say, perfect, because I offer that. As a financial advisor, I do that for all my clients. I help them make sure, especially their 401k, that they pick the right options, right? I can at least do that, you know, and then we'll see if there's any gaps and how we move forward with that. But you get that by working with me. And for those of you who are not financial advisors, at this point, you would say, I have an expert on my team that works with all my clients. Financial advisor, it's a free service. We offer it to all our clients. Take advantage of it if you don't already have someone to work with. And then I transition into, all right, first I say any questions. Anything that I can help with, any ambiguity in what I just said. Most people are like, no, sounds great. And I'm telling you, that's what they say. This is great. I didn't even know you guys did life insurance. How many times did I hear that? And I'm like, oh, like with country clients that I had inherited. I didn't know you did life insurance. I'm like, oh my. Yes, we do. You know, shame on that other agent. Hopefully you didn't go out and get it somewhere else because you didn't know we did it. You know? So, and then I would just transition after they said, no other questions. All right, let's cover your auto first. Then I go right into the property casualty claim. And that's what I called it. I called it planning. 3 pillars of planning: property casualty, your auto, home, umbrella, commercial, whatever that looked like. And then the other pillar was our life insurance plan. And so at this point, any conversation that I bring up around life insurance is not a shock to them, right? Because I've laid the foundation that that's what I do for all my clients. We put a plan together and we see what policies you have outside, or you might not have any. And then you have a gap. You may have a gap even though you have other policies, depending on how you want to use it. You know, the retirement planning, and that's just a given. People need help. They need access to help. And you're just that conduit. That's all you're doing is offering a conduit and pathway to give them help in that space. But if you don't talk about it, They don't know. All right, so the reason I do it at this point, before we actually get the, what we're there for, is because I have not met their need yet. Right, I haven't met it. If I try to do this after we had covered the auto, the home, the umbrella, purse on the shoulder, key in the hand, they're ready to leave. And I'm scrambling, right? I'm trying to ask them for referrals. I'm trying to say, wait a minute, I need to make another appointment for life insurance. And they're like, life insurance? I don't need any life insurance. Am I wrong? Like, can you guys imagine that? That's what people think, right? So this is what I developed this cadence in every appointment. And I don't care if the people on the other side of the desk were staring at me or irritated or whatever. I never wavered. This was my job. My job is to make sure they know how they can use me, what I do for all my clients. And on the flip side of this, imagine doing all of that. And imagine they said, no, I don't need life insurance. No, I don't need retirement planning. But I've introduced all of that. Now they know that I do it. So I've set myself up for referrals. They know they've experienced my process. And so now they know anyone they send to me is going to experience that same thing. You're creating an experience for people. That's what you're doing. So they can tell other people what they can experience, what that person can experience by going in a meeting with Jimmy, Nancy, Devin, Jeremy, Matt, Gabby.
Experience more with country.
Yep. So that's really, I mean, this is the crux of this session is how will that look for you? That setup. You are setting yourself up for your business, for future planning. And I call it planning honestly because it's less invasive, right? I'm not selling you a policy. I'm helping you develop a plan and we should see where the shortfalls are. And oh, by the way, I have a policy that can cover up those shortfalls. Really all it is. And in my mind, because I hate to be salesy and I'm not salesy and I don't like selling people things because then I feel like it's like I'm selling them something they don't need, just trying to make a buck type of thing. And yeah, I want to make commission, well, just like y'all do, right? But you've got to get comfortable. And that's the best way I think to connect with them. So that's the process I created. And I'm sure I keep saying I created this. I'm sure I took ideas from other people and I just don't remember, sure I listened. I took my financial specialist, which was Marcy Tibbs at that time. She's a financial specialist in Market 2 right now. I took her on every appointment I could. Come with me, come with me, come with me. I want to learn. What would you say in that situation? I was a student of how other people ran these appointments. And then I made it my own. Like, I got this. And at some point she was like, I refuse to come with you anymore. She's like, no. You don't need me. What questions do you guys have?
I wanted to, because I was taking my notes and I think I missed one. You said the 3 pillars of planning, we have property casualty, in which I probably should know this, but I can probably answer this by myself. But I just want to make sure that I got like what you were thinking. So property casualty, which is like your home, your autos, your umbrella, and then your income and retirement, and then the life, right? Those were the 3.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, and it's easy to remember, right? It's not complicated.
Yeah.
It's your property casualty planning, which is just what you described, your life insurance planning. It's like your life, you're gonna help them figure out your life insurance number, like how much, what their death benefit should be, how they want to use life insurance. And that's how you come up to that conclusion, right? So you ask them, that's putting the plan together. How how they want their family to spend that money. This is how you wanted it to be spent. And then retirement planning. Yes, the access to the retirement plan. Advice.
Do you
Devin, you were
have, oh, sorry, do
Oh,
you
no,
have
go
an order that you would suggest that we bring things up, like in the psychological sense or anything like that, or?
I would say that order, property casualty, that's the easiest for people to wrap their mind around, right?
Okay.
Then I transition to life insurance. You're introduced that you, and the phrase to always say is either most of my clients choose to do this, all my clients choose to do this. I do this for all my clients. I do this for most of my clients. Because then it's a herd mentality. They feel like they're part of the herd, right? They're part of the team. Well, if you do it for most of your clients must choose to do it. So I guess I'll choose to do it too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Devin, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, well, just with, like coming up with or refining, like my style, it just, like moving through the conversation, like when somebody sets an appointment, either it's virtual, it's on the phone call, or you can get them in person, asking them what they want to accomplish with this meeting. It's kind of my thought process. The meeting's been scheduled and they actually showed up. It must have been for some sort of reason. I'm hoping that doesn't open me up to, well, then I want to pay less for insurance. First thing out the gate, but just kind of asking them, hey, what do you want to accomplish with this meeting? What's the most important to you? And then, find that out. That's something that we're going to address, but hopefully that opens it up to me for, Brandon, well, let me tell you what I want to accomplish with this meeting. I want to make sure that we have some sort of life, I want to make sure we have some sort of life insurance or plan that's set up for you. Are we going to be covered for your missed wages if something happens, the unforeseen happens? Are we going to be able to keep the home or at least give some mortgage payment relief? And what are we leaving behind if the unforeseen happens or down the road so we have a legacy to pass on? I want to make sure that your biggest investment, your home, is fully covered. And then transition to the other stuff, the auto side and the financial side. But, now I'm just still coming up with this and trying to refine it. But I think asking them first what they want to accomplish with the meeting, and I think that opens it up to what my goals are for them as well, or what my goals are for the meeting. One of the things that I think I'm struggling with a little bit is, like what sort of preparation goes into that meeting? Not necessarily for me, but does this person know that they have to download the Teams app so they can actually be in the virtual meeting? Was that made clear to them, or was the only information that they got was that booking email that maybe they looked at or maybe they didn't? Because a lot of the times I just look to make sure that the appointment's set up on my calendar, and then I just kind of wipe my hands of it. Is it good to provide them with some sort of checklist or review of, hey, these are the things that we're going to cover beforehand? Or is it going to be more in my benefit or keep their attention more if I'm not necessarily outlining that at the beginning, like with the email or with a follow-up phone call prior to the meeting or something? That way it's just, not that because I don't want to catch them off guard, but I want it to be a fresh conversation that we're having right here that gets them excited about it. Or is there any pre stuff that people do or that you would recommend for that? Because I just recently kept running into that Teams thing, and I was like, oh, you had no idea that you had to download this app. You thought it was going to be like your FaceTime on your phone. Or something like that. So, and I don't know if everybody does confirmation phone calls before the meeting. Like, are we following up like the date prior to when the meeting's set? just so they hear from me and connect and we firm up that time, because I mean, I could see benefits in that, because if it does not work for them, we could reschedule and I can now open up that time to do other things. If I'm calling them a day prior, does it make them feel like, well, I already got this thing scheduled with you to talk to you tomorrow, why are you taking up my time now? I don't know, I guess any thoughts on that?
What are some thoughts for Devin? I have a lot, but I don't want to.
If, like, just from, and I was always a little bit extra, because a lot of my background was the cars thing, and it's like, you want to make sure they show up at the dealership, right? Because otherwise you can't buy a car if you're not at the dealership, so it's a little bit different, but, my process, when I'm not too overwhelmed, that I'm like able to get this for all my clients, but it's, email 3 days before, call day before, an email day of, and if they're a client, I'll use rep texting instead of those emails potentially, but it's like the 3 days before, the day before, and the day of. And so like a confirmation when they set the appointment, ideally if you have one rep texting, you can send them a text confirmation, because everybody prefers text to email these days, it seems like. But text confirmation when they set it, 3 days prior, 1 day prior, day of. And then that way it's just like it's in their mind, and then they feel like it's important. Because if you're making it like a big deal, you're like, yes, this is an important meeting we're having. This is very important to you. It's important to me. So I'm making sure you're aware of it. It kind of gives it a little more gravity than just oh yeah, just give me a 30-minute phone call, talk to you, I'll see you then, make it, don't make it, whatever, it's chill, like, so that's kind of why I do so many of those touches.
That's
But
perfect.
that might be extra, I don't know.
No, I mean, because I know I always appreciate it when like my doctor follows up with me like a couple days before to confirm the appointment, because it just like it makes me feel that they're on top of it, like, and not like, or maybe not necessarily, like, it just makes me feel like they're on top of it, and it just reinforces that I'm requesting time from them too. So it's like a two-way street, like, I don't know, like I'm not necessarily like doing them a favor. It's like, hey, I'm confirming this just so we're using both of our times most efficiently. Like, so I know I personally appreciate it, but being on this end, I'm like, I don't know, is that bugging people? But I like that approach, because again, that
Here's
is
the
something
thing.
that I personally appreciate.
Here's the thing, Devin, it doesn't matter how they perceive it, it's part of your process, right? The doctor, the dentist, they don't care how you perceive it. It's part of their process. They need to know, are you coming or you're not, I mean, and I think that's this is the process, and I'm gonna do it until, and if you would have a majority of people that would come in and say, oh my gosh, Devin, you have to send me 3 reminders, like I know I'm coming in. Nobody's gonna say that. But if they did, if everybody came in and said, you don't need to do that, then you might want to change it. But there's absolutely nothing wrong. Do you think there's something wrong when you get those text reminders? I mean, literally the dentist, like 3, just what Jeremy said. I'm like, yes, I'm funny. Yes.
Everyone sends them now. Like I get it. It's like practically every day. Like don't miss the hair appointment. We're counting on you to be here. That's how we're
Yeah.
making a living. So I feel like they've all gotten in the habit of like, this is a thing. Like it's okay. It's the standard now. Like to, respect the time. Don't no show on me, because then we all took the time to review it. And if they don't even come, that happened to me this week. Like she still hasn't responded, and I'm insulted. Like really? I mean, we had an appointment, and even though you're not going to now respond and you're my existing client, that's, you're on my bad list. You're blacklisted. Like, don't not get back to me. That's fine. Something came up, but you need to still respect me. Maybe I'm going to have that new thing, like you said, like, nope, now you can't. I don't want to. You didn't sign the agreement. You're out. You don't no show on each other. Like, that's just not cool. So, but maybe I didn't like that.
And I was just checking in Teams, and I haven't used it since back when I was like an assistant 3 years ago. So I got to refresh myself, and it'd probably take a few hours of learning how to use it. But there's this cool tool. I think they call it Workflows now. We used to call it Power Automate, but it's in Teams, and you can download it. But it's like coding light. It has like a bunch of chunks of text that you can do that you can integrate Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Outlook, and your calendar. And so you could even potentially have it set up where if you have a car, and I'd have to look into the details, I don't know, like, so, but it's worth my looking into yourself, but you could probably set it up so that if you have it in your calendar that this client's coming, and you have their phone number attached to that calendar listing, or their email attached to that calendar listing, you could probably have it set up so that Power Automate automatically sends an email confirmation to them of the appointment without you having to push a button. So it'd probably take a few hours to a day of teaching yourself how to use it, putting that up on the back end, but then that 5 minutes that you save each time you have one of those appointments over the next few years, it'd be worth the time investment. So I gotta look into that. If I can figure it out and I can draft up a little scaffold how to do that, I'll write like a Word document so you can step by step if I find the time to do that in the next couple of weeks. But Power Automate's cool. And it sounds scary because it's like coding, but it's really not. It's like putting puzzle pieces together and it walks you through it. So
Yeah, I told you guys, Jeremy's a genius. I mean, he says.
And the other thing too is be worried about, always, know ahead of time, hey, I'm gonna email reminder the day before, or so, would you prefer a text or email reminder the day before? Then they're expecting it. And then the other thing, on the list your process, you have asked them, what they expect out of the meeting. What if you actually went to what you're gonna do and then ask them afterward, what would you expect out of the meeting? So that way they kind of know what you're going through.
Mm.
Very good. Devin, on the Teams thing, like that, that would be part of it. Hey, just, some of my clients have struggled with this piece, making sure you're all good with that, or, that's the concept, right? I'm not sure you would say those exact words, but just making sure, you're all good with downloading the Teams app. That's how we will do all of our meetings, blah, 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 whatever you want to do. But I would not be scared to, not scared, but hesitant to reach out.
you can even potentially use that as a way to spin pushing an in-person appointment again, because in-person's always the best. Saying, hey, if you don't want to go through the rigmarole with downloading an app and dealing with all that, setting it up and logging in, you could just come by the office. So yeah.
Well, and Devin, the other thing I was gonna comment on is when you were talking about just that what's in it for them, right? That concept of what do they expect to get out of it. That's great for, even if some of you choose to use an agenda. As you go through, hey, here's what we're gonna cover today, and you could even, just what I introduced you, you can all put on an agenda and go through it and explain as well. And so on that, it could be client expectations or client concerns. You can put that on there, and that's when you would download. Yeah, I want to make sure to address anything that was on your mind of coming in here today. Like you want to make sure and really cover this aspect, or you had these questions. Want to make sure and note that on here so we cover those things. So that's great. But the agenda helps, but then you can scribble on it, make sure that you don't forget those pieces.
So kind of to that, like we touched on it briefly in our one-on-one, Christine, regarding things like some of the worksheets for like your life insurance number and stuff, and how sometimes it might be better to be more verbal or maybe on like a legal pad instead of like the worksheet. But for the agendas specifically, do you think it's better to have like something printed and out, or just like have a process, like, and maybe even while you're getting used to it, use the printout, but have like a more of a mental checklist that you verbalize to the client rather than having the paper? Do you think giving the client the visual is beneficial, or is it like pro con depending on your situation?
I think it depends, right? I was very verbal with it. I think at the beginning I used an agenda, and then I found myself not really referring to the agenda so much, and my clients weren't, because they were listening to what I was saying more. So then I stopped using the agenda. But you're all different. So you do what makes you feel comfortable, or even the client, if you know the client, you know that they're super detailed. And they're very, like, I was telling Jimmy, I was at Jimmy's office yesterday, I was telling him, because we were role playing, when I was in client, and so I came in and I said, hey, I'll just let you know right now, if my husband were sitting here, I go, it would be irritating speech. I'd be like, let's get to business. you know, and he just wants to know, Jimmy, tell me about yourself. You know, I want to get to know you. And anytime that we're in a meeting together, it's always that way. I'm all detail, I'm all business, let's go. And he just wants to get to know the person. You know, that's why we've been married for 34 years. Because we work well together. Not that I'm heartless, makes me sound like I'm heartless. I'm not. But he's just very, very good, very relational. And he would sit there for an hour before we actually got to anything, you know, drives me nuts. So, what else? I mean, that's really all I wanted to cover today was making sure the setup, I